Everyone has questions. You can put your name in the chat.
Good afternoon, everybody. Since I last saw you yesterday, I've been able to add and improve this team, which we're really excited about. First pick was, Tai Felton, receiver out of Maryland, who we're really excited to add. You talk about a player with the type of speed he has, and for a speed guy, he's physical. He'll insert in the run game. He'll block downfield. He's really good with the ball in his hands. A type of player that'll play all four phases of special teams, potentially be a returner. We were just drawn to his play style, his competitiveness, the ability to contribute to this culture. Just all the great, recommendations we got from his coaches at Maryland, and just all the work our scouts did on him. Everything pointed to the type of player the Vikings want. Just the role that we're looking to fill, and really excited to add him. Next was Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins from Georgia, a player that we were fortunate enough to bring in on top 30. Just somebody that was really intriguing to us in the film process. Versatility is something that we crave for our defense, and he stuck out as somebody who's able to do that, able to kind of set the edge, working outside in, and then in the rush game has some ability to win over the guard with a unique skill set. It's not refined yet, but there's some stuff in there that's pretty unique. We think that he's an incredibly intelligent player, and his best football is in front of him, and we think he's going to achieve that best football in this building. Next would be Kobe King, linebacker from Penn State. Really excited to add him. A lot of times in football we make it harder than it is, but it's a meat and potatoes game in some positions, and linebacker is one of them. You need somebody to tackle the person trying to advance the ball up the field against your team, whether that be special teams with the ball in his hands, or defending the pass. And he's somebody that plays with range, tackles. He's a really physical knockback impact tackler. And we're excited to add him, just not just to our fourth down units, but also potentially to be a starter one day in this league. A great communicator, was able to move people around in the Penn State defense, a great defense in its own right. And then you talk about a great culture and a group there that's been able to win and build something special there up in State College. And then lastly, Gavin Bartholomew, Pittsburgh tight end. I think one of the cool things that jumped out with him was, as you all know, you talk to Jordan, and Jordan, can be he's not the most loudest guy in the room, I would say, but he's an incredible personality and funny, and once you get to know him. But, we asked him about Gavin, and he lit up. Before he even said words, you can kind of just see it in his demeanor and the smile on his face. He came in as a freshman there and, on a really good team and played good football for them. And that means a lot, the ability to come in at that age, the pressure of that environment coming from high school. Just a lot of stuff he can do. We think he can be a hybrid YF tight end for us. He's got some route running ability. We think he's got a lot, actually, of ability in his body. His pro day showed a lot of that. We think our coaches, Coach Angelico and Coach Cordell, are some of the best in league to get that out of him. And then we think he's got a lot of lower body strength to kind of help him in the run game and be somebody that'll help us both in the run game and special teams. Just a good athlete, a good football player, competitive. And you'll hear those words a lot, but those are the type of people we're trying to add to this building. And then lastly, I would add, just incorporated in the draft, it was the ability to kind of manipulate the board and end up with Sam Howell, somebody that we had been in conversations with for a little bit, and we had targeted, we watched Sam in our quarterback journey, our process over the past couple of years, and somebody that a lot of people in this building had appreciation for. When the opportunity struck, we decided to add him, and we're excited to add him. He's excited to be here. And we're excited to go. After this is over, we're going to get out in the grass. I can't wait to be around the guys. I can't wait for rookie minicamp. I can't wait for all of it after I talk to you, smiling faces.
Kevin, you can start us off, and then names will follow.
Sure. So, Kwesi, do you imagine that your quarterback room is where it's going to be here for a while, or how would you sort of view the guys that you have in that room right now?
Yeah, we feel great about it. I think at times going through OTAs and training camp, sometimes you add a fourth. And so there's a potential for that. We're going through the CFA process right now, actually, in fact. We'll start the CFA process right after the draft ends. But once I get back there, I'll kind of know a little bit more about who potentially could come here but we're really excited about the room. If the season started today, we'd be fired up about the guys in that room. And so that's how I would say that.
Hi. Kind of sticking on Sam Howell. You mentioned having an eye on him for the past couple of years. If I'm not mistaken, he was drafted in 22, which obviously was your first year here. Did you do much work studying him coming into the 22 draft? And if so, was there something, or did you learn anything about him in that process that kind of helped you to make this decision here today?
Yeah, we did some work on him, and I like that word, did some work, because, coming in from my background, a lot of it was the film work, and it was the evaluation of statistics and different things like that. And as we've talked a lot about at length, drafting a quarterback's a marriage. That level of commitment, relationship building, relationship understanding. You got to meet the friends, you got to meet the family, you got to do all that sort of courtship. And so we didn't think in that first year together, when Kevin and I got together, that was the right time in our journey to make such an investment. We say a lot that organizations fail quarterbacks long before quarterbacks fail organizations, and we didn't want to be one of those the reasons why somebody didn't, because we weren't ready, we weren't in the right place to do that type of thing. And so we didn't think that was the right time, but he was on a pure talent and all those other things we talk about. He was high up on our board, but just didn't think it was the right time and place. And sometimes that happens in life, that maybe the person you're dating, it's not the right time and place, but then later on in life it happens at a better time.
Yeah, hey Kwesi. You guys obviously didn't take a cornerback or a safety. Just how much do you feel like that says about you guys' confidence right now and where you're at in the secondary?
I think the draft is always about opportunity. So we are extremely confident in our group, as we are confident about the other groups where we might have addressed positions. But just the way the board fell, there wasn't anybody to opportunity-wise, like you mentioned. If you draft somebody, it's because you think they're competitive or they'll be able to take the place of somebody else, and we didn't really see it. You talk about our safety room. We're really excited to bring back Josh Metellus, obviously, and Harrison Smith. Those are known commodities. Theo Jackson, somebody we've been excited about for a long time, and for since we brought him over here from Tennessee, somebody that in the limited time he's played has shown what we think of him. And then Jay Ward, somebody again with an incredibly versatile skill set that we still see. I think when he plays safety, it looks natural to him. Football makes a lot of sense to him out there. He's got some really good range, and we're excited to see what that competition looks like. This organization, my staff will always be looking for opportunities, but the draft didn't seem like an opportunity for that. And then in the cornerback room, we love Murph, obviously, excited to bring him back, and Isaiah and Okuda and Mekhi Blackman. A lot of times in this league, when you come back from injury, you become forgotten, but we haven't forgotten him. We're excited to see how he resumes. And then Dwight McLaughlin, who's somebody who showed in limited time last year in the preseason and then in special teams play that he could be something for us. So we're excited about that group. Always football is connected, though, so when you're excited about your secondary, it means you're probably excited about your front. And so we are, and we're ready to get going.
Kwesi, when it comes to Ingram-Dawkins, kind of a small sample size of him playing just really this year, and before didn't get as many opportunities. How did you weigh that with his potential upside and what you saw at the combine, and how good he could get with not only training but also time behind players like Hargrave and Jonathan Allen?
I think you said it perfectly. In my experience to this point, I'm a data guy, right? So data people like seeing things more often, a frequency or certain things like that. And these are always the hardest ones for me, to where you're seeing the ability. You see the traits, as scouts will say, or upside or potential, without necessarily the ability, the opportunity necessarily to have this certain production. But we can look at production adjusted for time and different things like that. And then when you get to meet the person, I think that's when you close the loop and see that he's incredibly intelligent, and he's very self-aware. He knows the things he needs to work on. He's pointed to the things that he can get better at. And so when it comes to that, when you see that the combine, when he shows up at the combine and those things match the potential trait you see in him, there's a certain way you can kind of calculate the odds of that happening versus somebody who might have been more productive but maybe less capacity in their body. And so we just weight those decisions like we weight everything else. And the final piece of it is having a coaching staff that's involved in our evaluation process and that's fired up to coach them. I don't know that I have any specific studies that show that the odds that make it better, but I think common sense would tell you that a teacher that wants to pour into a student, that's a good outcome.
Kwesi, when did you all identify Kobe in the pre-draft process as someone you wanted to target?
Our scouts do an incredible job. They've known who Kobe was for a long time. So they help set our board, they set our process, and then our coaches, again, get involved. And that's a position where you have to have heavy coach involvement because the football learning, the fit in our defense, communication, all those things aren't necessarily something that, I might be able to watch or a scout may be able to watch and determine. So then once our coaches got involved and saw that, they thought he could start a potential, really that just becomes an exercise of going through your scenarios and seeing, hey, we have really intelligent people who calculate the odds of people being available at certain places in the draft. And through some of our simulation exercises, we saw that he's potential to be available. We didn't think where we got him, but, in other places. So that I and Kevin can kind of allocate our time accordingly. We try and focus on the people that are kind of higher probability to be there where we would be expected to pick. And once one of our exercises, I remember that he came up, and whenever a name comes up that we haven't deep dive, we make sure we deep dive into, and we did it. And I honestly, I watched him and I was like, there's no way he'll be there when this projection says he will be. Sometimes you get lucky, but you pick up the phone and you talk to somebody and you hear it in their voice that they also don't think they should have been there. That gets you pretty fired up to bring them over to Minnesota.
Kwesi, I know we talked about the compensatory formula as related to quarterback depth, but beyond that, do you imagine once that deadline passes that you might dip back into some things after that point? Yeah,
we'll take a look. Obviously, there's always that consideration, but again, I think we're pretty excited about our roster. Just a couple spots here and there that we're going to monitor, but again, CFA process is happening right now, and we try and be a glass half full organization. And there's some people in there that we think would compete for a roster spot. So if we get them, that could be something where we just decide to go in that direction.
Kwesi, you guys have talked a little bit about impact in this draft class. I guess, how do you measure that in year one with a guy that in some cases maybe a multi-year development kind of prospect? How do you figure that out?
Yeah, a lot of times we have kind of ways of, even if you didn't have some complicated way, you could just, look at an average play time for a player of that draft round, right? And a lot of that is not necessarily incorporated in talent. Some of that's just an opportunity if there's somebody behind him, in front of him. So we're going to look at each player kind of on their own standing and the opportunity that they have in front of them. How are they working at practice? Are they working to get better? I think that's how we evaluate players. If there's an opportunity, how do they play? All the while knowing that players don't come in ready-made. That's not how it works in the NFL. Year one isn't how their career is written. That's not how we study them. That's not how anybody's career really particularly goes. And so we'll just make sure that and obviously we prefer year one roles when they can happen. It's always better to play earlier if possible, but we'll kind of judge them kind of on a curve based on the opportunity in front of them. But again, there's some players here that we think should see the field in year one, and we're excited for it.
Kwesi, with Sam Howell, what kind of conversations did you and Kevin have that spurred you guys to want to acquire him specifically?
Yeah, Kev talks a lot about, he probably doesn't use the term QB portfolio, but just kind of the makeup of the room. And specifically what skill sets you want in the room, what experience set you want in the room. And we kind of really just try and talk through a game and a season in a sense. If he had to come off the bench and play for this game, what type of skill set would you want? If you needed him for 3 games, and then that's also in relation to the type of team you have around him. Are we going to be able to run the football? Are we going to play defense, rush the passer, all those different things? And so we just had that conversation and said, hey, if he needed to come in and play this period of game, maybe this late in the season, early in the season, what would that be like? Would you want a player just with, again, different, I don't want to get too specific with skill sets, but different things that they can do on a field to help you. And that's really just how we have it, and just making sure that also the rep thing is a big thing. And that's something that I've had to really learn from Kevin, and the dedication of reps to, develop a player like JJ. It's not necessarily going to lend itself to a ton of reps elsewhere. And so just really thinking through the portfolio in that regards. We try and be very mindful of that, and those are our conversations, some of my funnest conversations, because there's no right or wrong answer, and we're just malleable and open-minded in the way we talk about it. And Sam was just somebody that really fit a lot of those needs.
Kwesi, from a bigger picture, I know you just finished up the draft, so maybe you haven't thought too much about this, but when you set out for the offseason, I guess, how does this look now that the draft is over, the free agency is mostly over, kind of in comparison to the goals that you set out to accomplish this offseason with this roster?
Man, I got to be honest with you, man. My family's probably just got here. I got to make sure that little Nerf hoop is put together for my son in my office. I got a lot of people to thank and hug for all the work they do here. I haven't thought about all the things we've done, but I will always go back to the incredible hard work that everybody in this group does. We set a vision to start this offseason, and so before I actually sit back and talk about what we've accomplished, I can appreciate for all the work they put into the vision that we set. I'll always just go back to that, just how grateful I am for all the people around us, from the personnel staff, coaching staff, operations staff, just incredibly minded. But I'll get there, Kyler. I'm not there yet. I'm trying to be in the moment right now and, go see my family and just thank a lot of people.
Hi, Kwesi. This one's a little bit left field from some of the questions here. I'm over in just outside London. We've seen picks announced from all around the world today, and it's great to have that international fan recognition. We know how invested the club is with the UK and this side of the pond. So I just wanted to ask you, how important is it to you to recognize Vikings fans all around the world on a day like today?
I think I got the question. You were breaking up a little bit. Can I confirm that it was just how important was it to see that Vikings fans represented all over the world were a part of the picks that we made?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I can't hear you
involving
at all.
fans around the world on draft day on a day like
that's
today.
What he asked me?
Okay. Yes.
Just want to make sure I answer the right question. Okay. That is the right question. Okay. And look, this game that we play is an incredibly beautiful sport that that we all wake up and work long hours for. So it's just an incredible thing to see, the global outreach that this game can have. And then the Vikings fans, when I got this job, I think I've told the story about my mom's neighbor who ended up being a lifelong Vikings fan that I never knew, and took me to his Viking shrine in his bedroom. But I think that it never goes unnoticed to me how broad this fan base is and how passionate it is. And so it doesn't surprise me to see the fans all over the world just enjoying this game and what it brings and the celebration of the game. That's one of my favorite things about the UK game. When I'm not working in football anymore, I think that's a game I probably want to attend as a fan. I think it's just a celebration of football. I want to sing Sweet Caroline in the stands with everybody else. I want to do all the fun things that you guys get to do when you're not sweating out a fourth quarter game in the NFL. But I think it's just incredible what this league's been able to do, spreading the game internationally, and then we'll continue to do so in Africa. I'm fortunate enough to be involved in the Ghanaian flag football team effort. If anybody would like to go support that effort, we're happy to have you. But it's just incredible what the outreach of the game and what it's been able to do.
Kwesi, you mentioned that this was part of a vision that you guys set through the offseason. How would you articulate that vision in a nutshell, and how did the draft kind of fit into that?
I don't know if you want the 22-page manifesto that just comes, but it's hard to encapsulate it, I would say, into a sentence. But I think, in a sense, you can see the type of team you want to be on the football field. You can see them play. When Kevin and I talk, our words, but you're just picturing a type of team and situations and how they play. And we set forth to put together a vision of that type of team that, to win 4 games or how many games you need to win the ultimate prize. You can get into different types of fights. You don't know what type of fight it's going to be when you enter it. And you want to be able to have the type of roster, the type of schemes that'll allow you to win any type of game. And so we've tried to do that. I would say that encapsulates a lot of what we try to do, and the types of players and people that we wanted to bring in really encapsulates that. And so it's hard to really put that into a bit. It's a lot of discrete thoughts that come together to how it looks in your head and how it looks in KO's head, and we're excited to where we ended up.
Was it really a 22-page manifesto?
It's long. I have a lot of long. Yeah, that's just it's long. A lot of, it's probably my favorite part of the job when you wake up and you think about different things. You learn from other sports, other teams in the league, and just different dynamics. And it's great because the game always changes. When you think you've got it, one thing figured out, you see a team doing something different, and you try and see where the game's going in that regard. So just a lot of planning, 26, 27, where can we be? I think a lot of times people think when we make an action, there was a series of events that led to that action. Even just if you think about our draft day trades today, it's 102, but we ended up getting 139 and 142, which was a plan to take those next steps, right? And so all those connected things or musings that I think through, and then I wake up and I tell them to Kevin Raw, or I tell them to my staff, and they say that's crazy, and I say, yeah, you're right, and then there's some new ones in there, and then it comes out and a vision. It's kind of a cool, we're almost just like a band where we kind of come up with a song, and everybody's got ideas, and you guys get to see the final product. Hopefully, it's a beautiful song like Bicycle by Queen or something like that, and not something on the worst hits tracks.
Thanks, Kwesi.
Thank you, guys.